Good morning. My name is Annie Duflo. I'm the Executive Director of Innovations for Poverty Action, a global organization dedicated to discovering and advancing what works to help people living in poverty. Thank you very much to the Touch a Life Foundation for having me here today. It's a pleasure. And welcome everyone to the World Kindness Day event. So if you're here today, it's probably because you want to contribute to achieving one of these sustainable development goals, either through your philanthropy or through your work, whether you work for an existing organization or as a social entrepreneur. And that's important because while the number of people living in poverty had been going down, it is still high, and it has dramatically gone up by almost 100 million people with COVID. So you want to contribute. That's kindness. Now, the question is, what is the best way to achieve these goals? Where should you invest your money and your time, which are both limited? In other words, what will have the highest return on investment? And the answer to this question is not necessarily obvious. Let's take an example, zooming in on one of these goals, health, and a specific issue that we are all well aware of, COVID. What's the best way to encourage people to wear masks? This is an important question because, as you know, masks are our first line of defense against COVID, especially in contexts where vaccines will not be readily available to everyone for quite a while, which is the case in most low and middle-income countries. There are lots of good possible ideas. All have some costs associated with them, and we want to invest our resources wisely. So which approach, or maybe combination of approaches, do you think will work best to encourage the use of masks? So how do we go about figuring this out? In the medical field, the efficacy of medicines or vaccines, as we're all quite aware of these days, is assessed using a rigorous approach, randomized controlled trials. Our goal at IPA is to apply the same rigor to evaluating social programs. And then we share evidence and equip decision makers to use it so that it ultimately translates into real impacts and real programs and policies, ultimately improved lives. So that's what we did in this case. Early in the pandemic, a team of leading researchers from Yale, Stanford, partnered with IPA, as well as health officials and researchers from Bangladesh, to conduct a large-scale randomized evaluation to answer this question about masks. So I'm now going to show you a very short movie to illustrate the problem and the approach that we took to determine what would work best to get people to wear masks.
For Bangladesh, COVID has been devastating. We lost many colleagues. Public health infrastructure has been overwhelmed. Vaccinations were not available on time. We needed a solution that is low cost and can be rolled out easily across the country. And that's where masks come in.
How do we get people to change their behavior? I'm from Bangladesh and have friends and family members all over South Asia. So it was natural for us to put our research resources to try and address that problem. We tried over a dozen different strategies, and we randomized with 350,000 people across 600 villages in Bangladesh to see what was most effective.
So that's kindness plus data. Kindness, working to find solutions for millions of people at risk of contracting COVID, and data, using rigorous research to figure out which solution will work best to address this problem. So what did they find? We found that a four-pronged approach involving the free distribution of masks, offering information about the benefits of masks, modeling by trusted leaders like imams, and regular reinforcement in person and in public was really effective at increasing consistent use of masks. The use of masks tripled in this context. And it was really important that these approaches were combined. It wasn't sufficient to just distribute masks for free, for example. And in turn, the increase in mask wearing led to a reduction in the spread of COVID, especially among people aged above 60, by 35%. Those are important impacts, and this was the first study of this kind evaluating the impact of masks in a real-world setting and evaluating what best approaches would be to encourage the use of masks. And based on this evidence, a coalition of partners, including BRAC, SEVA, the City of Lahore, and others, are now scaling the approach to millions of people to increase mask wearing and save lives in return. This wouldn't be possible without the scale and the ability to mobilize of these organizations. Their partnerships with IPA as a provider of evidence about what works best, and also the generosity of some donors who quickly provided funding to make this happen. That's the power of partnerships. So kindness plus data plus partnerships leads to impact. This is just one example of the type of issues that IPA works on using this approach. And all of our projects are heavily based on partnerships. Across the 22 countries where we have offices, we partner with academics and implementers or decision makers, like governments or non-profits or other types of organizations who implement programs and policies. Together, we identify poverty-related issues. It could be health behaviors related, like in this example, but it could also relate to economic development, agriculture, education, and other issues. We identify and often design innovative solutions to these problems, and then rigorously evaluate the impact of these solutions to understand which ones will be most cost-effective. And throughout this process, we champion the use of evidence in decision-making. So there are many resources out there to guide evidence-based philanthropy outside of IPA. The Life You Can Save, for example, was funded by philosopher Peter Singer and recommends organizations based on evidence of their impact. Or the Effective Altruism movement promotes data-driven philanthropy. And there are many others as well. So I encourage you to check out these resources to guide you in your endeavors. And to conclude, I'd like to leave you with this guidance. First, choose your cause with your heart and kindness. Figure out what to do with data and evidence. And finally, accomplish your vision, your big vision, with partnerships. And to quote Peter Singer, if doing the most you can for others means that you're also flourishing, then that is the best possible outcome for everyone. I'm sure that this event today will give you a lot of ideas and a lot of connections to help you translate your kindness into impact. So have a good day. Thank you.